Our position is, if we think Shamima Begum has committed serious crimes and is a threat to national security, the proper way to prosecute serious crimes is through British courts. And many experts, many security experts have said we are perfectly capable of managing threats in Britain.
I'm sorry, but it leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you see someone who was, born in this country, had a life, had family, had friends. It's not like she was, poor. It's not like she was coming from a, absolutely destructive family. But you're out here willingly joining the caliphate. Yeah. I don't feel sorry. The only thing I feel sorry about is her kids. They're gonna have to live a life of poverty and struggle because of decisions their mother made.
You are now listening to Pree Da Production with your host, Majaro.
What is up, my tribal people? Welcome back to another video on the Pree Da Production YouTube channel. I'm your host, Majaro, aka Image. I already know what I'm going to say. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, because it goes a long way in helping us grow the community. And by sharing this with your friends and family, that helps us do that. And if you want to show more support, it would be very much appreciated if you guys leave a super thanks. It goes a long way in helping us make these types of videos. Now let's get into it. So, does anyone remember Shamima Begum?
The Supreme Court has ruled that Shamima Begum, the woman who left Britain as a teenager to join the Islamic State group in Syria, should not be allowed to return here to challenge the removal of her British citizenship. The court ruled unanimously that her rights were not breached when she was refused permission to return. The 21-year-old is currently in a camp in northern Syria. Our Home Affairs correspondent Daniel Sanford reports.
Yes, the Jihadi bride. Once run away, left her parents, left her life in the UK to become a Jihadi bride, subsequently got involved in that conflict, got married, had children, lost a husband, and now she wanted to come back to the UK. But the UK government says no. The UK citizens say no. And unfortunately, her passports and her citizenship to the UK were revoked. To my knowledge, this is the first time this has happened, because their reasoning was she's a threat. She's a terrorist threat. We can't afford to take that risk in reintegrating her into the society. Only God knows if she still has contacts with them and potentially could link up with, sleeper agents, secret agents, and then she can co-conspire and get messages and leak information, X, Y, and Z. So they don't want to take the risk. And rightfully so. Got to look after the public safety. And if she wanted to give away her life so much, she should stay where she is. And I think last time I heard she was in a Syrian refugee camp. That's crazy. How do you go from living a life of relative comfort in the UK, having children, losing your husband due to the conflict, and now you're in a refugee camp? What a crazy life she lived. She recently got a verdict on her appeal of that decision to revoke her citizenship, and it's not good news.
It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
Now let's start with that news that's broken in the last few minutes, that Shamima Begum has lost her latest appeal over the removal of her British citizenship. Ms Begum travelled to Syria to join the Islamic State group back in 2015 when she was 15. Her citizenship was revoked on national security grounds shortly after she was found in a Syrian refugee camp in February 2019. She had argued that the decision was unlawful because she was a victim of trafficking. It means that she remains in Syria with no charge.
Trafficking? I'm sorry, but we literally watched the CCTV camera of you walking through Gatwick Airport, hopping on a plane to Syria to join. I think it's ISIS, or I can't remember which one. To me, they're all the same. Taliban, ISIS, they're both terrorists. I don't really distinguish between which one's which. Trafficked? Stop it. No, stop. What, you're saying this is some Andrew Tate shit? They used the lover boy method against you, and now you just had to leave your family? Nah, stop the cap.
Of returning to the UK. Well, here's Dame Sue Carr, the Lady Chief Justice of England and Wales, delivering the ruling in the Court of Appeal.
In conclusion, for these reasons, we unanimously dismiss the appeal. It could be argued that the decision in Miss Begum's case was harsh. It could also be argued that Miss Begum is the author of her own misfortune. But it is not for this court to agree or disagree with either point of view. Our only task is to assess whether the deprivation decision was unlawful. We have concluded it was not, and the appeal is dismissed.
Well, let's speak now to Mayor Foa, who is an executive director of Reprieve, a legal action non-governmental organisation representing Ms. Begum. What's your reaction to this?
Well, it's obviously a disappointing decision, but in some ways not surprising. What we've heard here is the court again showing absolute deference to the government and essentially saying this is a political decision. We can't tread over that line and say they did something wrong here procedurally. But they have also acknowledged that Ms. Begum, there were credible suspicions she was a victim of trafficking and that many people might find this decision disturbing, the decision to deprive her in the first place. So what we are left with here is a political problem, a problem that the government could have solved. They made it, they could solve it, and the courts have said it is not for us right now. It will be appealed, but that's the current status.
What they have ruled was in terms of national security and in terms of the public good being a priority when it came to their decisions rather than any of the 5 grounds for appeal that was brought.
Yes, they said that procedurally the government hadn't made mistakes in the way to the point of unlawfulness in the way they made the decision. But they also acknowledged that there are many important factors in this case that might result in many of us thinking that the decision to deprive in the first place was an unjust one. Our position is, if we think Shamima Begum has committed serious crimes and is a threat to national security, the proper way to prosecute serious crimes is through British courts. And many experts, many security experts have said we are perfectly capable of managing threats in Britain.
Have you, I know it's only just happened, but have you spoken to her? Have you told her about what's happened?
I mean, she does have a point. She does have a point. There are a lot of terrorists or alleged potential terrorists who are on a watch list, who are constantly surveillance to make sure they don't do anything or people under suspicion. If they can credibly keep an eye on them, how come you can't also do the same for her? That is a fair point. And when it comes to fairness, that does seem unfair. But at the same time, actions have consequences. You can't just, I'm sorry, but it leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you see someone who was, born in this country, had a life, had family, had friends. It's not like she was, poor. It's not like she was coming from a, absolutely destructive family that we know of anyways. She hasn't said anything about that. It's not like, there are people out to get her. She and her friend, I can't remember what they said happened to her friend. Her and a friend went out, got a ticket, got on a plane, went to Syria, joined the terrorist organization, and proceeded to live a life there. And it was only until that organization had been destroyed so much, that's when she thought, okay, I might go back. She didn't go back after a year. She didn't go back after 2, 3. It was like good 10 years. We didn't hear anything about her. And then she says, actually, I want to come back. Yeah, it's tough out here. I've been aped. I've been done this and done that. Mate, you decided to take that risk. It's not like people had a gun to your head and said, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to your family. That's where I don't have sympathy. There's people who actually deserve sympathy and people who've actually been deported from this country who had rightful and legal grounds to remain in this country due to the promises the government made. But for some reason, some systematic errors, some absolute buffoonery regarding the Windrush generation and their subsequent offspring, they were kicked out of the country, been deported, haven't been to Jamaica or the Caribbean islands in forever, but you're out here willingly joining the caliphate. Yeah. I don't feel sorry. The only thing I feel sorry about is her kids. They're gonna have to live a life of poverty and struggle because of decisions their mother made.
No, and we're not the lawyers for Ms. Begum. We have worked on the case, but we're not her lawyers. We haven't told her what's happened as yet. I'm sure she will be informed, and I'm sure she'll be, disappointed by this, but know that it's not the end of the line, because there will, I'm assuming, be an appeal.
So you assume that this will go
How can you appeal the appeal? What?
to the Supreme Court, do you? And on what grounds would you be interested in taking it to the Supreme Court?
Well, again, it would be her legal team to determine the grounds, but I do expect that they would appeal it, because this is a matter of really huge significance, and both in this present case and more broadly. Citizenship stripping it fell out of disuse after the Nazis used it. Britain is the only country in the G20 to use citizenship stripping in bulk. It's a totally unaccountable power. And in fact, the court decision today that upholds the lawfulness of the process the government has gone through just exemplifies the problem that we have. A Home Secretary can make a decision based on what he or she thinks is conducive to the public good. We don't actually know what went into that decision. So you've read out the court judgment. We haven't heard why they say she's a threat. We haven't had.
Well, it's secret, isn't it? The evidence, it's understandable that some evidence has to be kept secret. This was evidence from MI5 and MI6, wasn't it, at the previous hearing? But it is understandable that some evidence has to be kept secret, isn't it?
Some evidence, but with a matter so serious as citizenship stripping, where 2 out of 5 British nationals from an ethnic minority background could be stripped of citizenship without notice, without a proper process, without being able to have their case heard openly, without being able to see the evidence against them. I think that's a terrifying situation. And as I say, Britain's the only country that does this in the G20. We are second to Bahrain and Nicaragua only in stripping citizenship in this way. And the secretive nature of it compounds the problems.
Okay, thanks very much for talking to us. That's Maya Foa, Director of Reprieve. Thank you.
The concerns are valid. If this can happen to Shamima, this can happen to anyone. That's essentially the argument she's making. Well, I don't think just anyone is going on a plane to a war-torn country to fight for a terrorist organization and then wanting to come back to the homeland acting like it all was a dream. It was all a fever dream. I feel like if you don't do what she did, you be good. Because she's only in this situation because of what she did. So I understand you could be like, there's no checks and balances. This could happen at any time to anyone for, what they believe is the safety of the public, and we can't expose or explain the decision into more depth because we'll be exposing the evidence and, intelligence that we have. Yes. But to the everyday person, you can't be out here trying to gain sympathy after the things she said, after the way she acted in various interviews before she had this turn of faith. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you feel like this is not a black and white situation that we need to look into more depth and, if this can happen to her, it can happen to anyone? Or do you believe, like myself, you play silly games, you win stupid prizes? Anyway, you guys don't already know what I'm going to say. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe and share this with your friends and family, because it goes a long way in helping us grow the community. And if you want to show more support, leaving a super thanks is very much appreciated. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
I be kidding on my foes, even though I got it all on my own. Success sweet, yeah, it tastes like honeycomb. Dropping blood tears and even breaking bones. I'm sipping on Patron while aiming for the throne. I've been to hell and back and even call it home.